working, I see.
It's working.
Okay.
You don't need any help with the mics. You project well.
Okay. Skip the mic?
Well, so we got one for the panel. It's probably going to steal the Q&A mic initially for the speaker, and then they'll still have one, and then we can pass it off.
I better get my notes out.
Test. Test. You are. That is live. That's on. Does everybody have water?
Forest Viability Program. Ian Hartman. Vermont Fund Forest Viability Program. Can I just say forest?
You can just call it the viability program.
Well, I can say Department of Forest. Okay, folks, we're getting ready to wrap this up. We're getting close to the end. So very quickly, and I forgot my notes, so I don't know if I have any housekeeping to do, but it's not going to happen. I would like to introduce, this is our final panel. We've got a great group of young entrepreneurs, rising industry folk, and we thought we would end with them. And I'm going to introduce Ian Hartman. Ian Hartman is he is a member of the Working Lands Enterprise Board. He's also on the Forestry Committee, and Ian is with the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board and runs their farm and forest viability program. Ian, it's all yours.
Great, thanks. Well, I think I've got all these, so.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. This is quite loud. Yeah, thanks, everybody. Just to close up, we're going to have this really great panel here of folks who are either getting into the industry in a few years or who are running the sort of educational programs that are who are sort of shepherding people in by running this sort of educational programs that are bringing the new workforce into the industry, or we're taking over businesses that are in their family. So I think earlier, one of the speakers earlier this morning really talked about how the forest industry is really about people. And so I think that we can really hear this afternoon from the sort of people who are going to be the future of the industry. And so we really want to know about what are these folks thinking, what are folks in their position, what are they thinking about for the future, what are the opportunities they're seeing, what are the challenges, what are the needs. So with that, I'll sort of introduce who we have. We'll be talking here with Ed Notterman, who's coming from the Green Mountain Career and Tech Center in Hardwick. Tony Driscoll is here from the Vermont Woodworking School. We also have Charlie Hancock from Forestry of Montgomery. Kyle Pratt's here from Kyle Pratt Logging in Jericho. We have Andrew and Adam Rainville from Maple Landmark in Middlebury, and Peter Gardner, Clifford Lumber, Heinsberg. So I think just to start out, we're going to go down the line, and maybe everybody can just, as a way of introducing yourselves, just sort of give folks here a sense of what led you to where you're at. I'm looking at that to start out.
So I graduated from ASU in 2001 in Hardwick. Degree in forestry. Worked in the woods of northern Maine for urban woodlands, and then came back to the family farm. And then in 2014, Mark Luno retired, who ran the program. So I kind of slid in. Finished up my fourth year teaching, and thought it'd be kind of cool to be full circle. Teach the program that influenced the direction I took my life quite heavily.
So I'm Karina Driscoll from Vermont Woodworking School. About 12 years ago, well, first I'll just say I grew up in Vermont, and I always had a love for Vermont and everything about it, and I wanted to learn woodworking. And about 12 years ago, I got into woodworking and built my cherry kitchen cabinets and turned some bowls and made little boxes, all with a teacher named Bob Fletcher, who was an incredible craftsman and became my mentor in a community wood shop that I was renting space in that decided to close. And there were a lot of us learning from this craftsman, and it was really clear that that couldn't stop. And it was also really clear there's a tremendous amount of talent in Vermont for making furniture and designing furniture and not passing along that trade. So we created something called the Apprentice Program, where people could come and enroll in our school and have a bench and have access to a mentor who passed that trade down. And so 10 years later, we're the Vermont Woodworking School still. We're up in Fairfax, and we have lots of faculty now and a few dozen students at a time that are learning fine furniture making and woodworking. Most of our students come from out of the state of Vermont, and a lot of them end up staying here. They're in their 20s and 30s generally, and they're looking to create a life here, and they stick around. And they want to build a beautiful life, and they're doing that. Now that we've been around 10 years, we've got a lot of people, in the hills of Vermont who are piecing it together the Vermont way. They're swinging a hammer sometimes and building beautiful furniture sometimes, and working for farmers and creating a life and hopefully employing people, and some of them are employing people, and they're working in some of the industry jobs that are being created by lots of people here.
So I'm not a native Vermonter, unfortunately, but I spent a lot of time here growing up and fell in love with the place. And when it came time to go to school, there was one place I wanted to go, and that was UVM, and thank God I got in. And then after my first semester, I realized there was this program called the Forestry Program, and I could spend 4 years playing in the woods and actually get a degree for it. So that was pretty cool. So I went through that program, met some of the most formative people in my life still to shape the direction of where I was going to go, and then I was lucky enough to land a job with Upland Forestry and Joe Nelson at a school, and I think Joe's probably employed most of the foresters that work in the state of Vermont. It's pretty true, Joe, come on. And it was awesome. I went to work in the Adirondacks for lime timber and fell in love with the industry, and then about 10 years ago, the opportunity came up to move back to Vermont and take over a company based around Montgomery, working with private landowners across the northern part of the state. So as far as I'm concerned, I still get to play in the woods every day, and it's the best thing in the world.
Kyle Pratt, I own KJ Pratt Lawn and Tree Service. I have kind of an odd way that I got into it because I haven't spent most of my life in the woods. First generation logger, spent most of my time as an electrician. And I moved up to management, and I got really, really tired of that kind of lifestyle. I wanted to get away. I always found the woods really fascinating, so I figured I'd buy a chainsaw and a skidder and give it a try. And it's worked out surprisingly well. And I've been full-time for 5 years now. I think total I've done about 7 years, and really enjoyed it so far.
So I'm Andrew Rainville with Maple Landmark. So I've only officially been back full-time in wood products for about a year. I graduated college just over a year ago. But I like to say I've been kind of in the business for 23 years. Yeah. Because I really grew up in the business. The shop, when I was born, was, I don't know, maybe 50 or 100 feet from our house. It's now several miles away. But I really grew up in the business, working with our finish room and some in the sanding area, not actually using the sanders when I was younger, but helping out there. And then I went away to college, and I did a few internships in different parts of the country in different industries. And then when it came time at the beginning of my senior year to start thinking about what I wanted to do post-graduation, I found that coming back to the family business, coming back to Maple Landmark, and applying what I learned at college, I was a dual major in business management and electronic media, arts and communication. Applying that to the world that I already knew of wooden toys and games and gifts and that sort of thing was exciting and challenging and something different that a lot of my peers really couldn't relate to. And so that was something that I took interest to, and so came back full-time in May of last year, and have been working on it ever since.
Okay, so I'm Adam Rainville, and like Andrew, I've grown up in the business, Maple Landmark, and unlike him, I'm more on the production side of the business. He's on the front end side, public facing, if you might call it that. And so, starting back in high school, I was involved in a lot of process improvement processes, getting involved in that kind of thing for the business. I went off to college to Clarkson University in Northern New York and got a degree in engineering management. So it provided a good opportunity on how to better improve processes and how to approach problems and things like that. And then 4 years ago now, I joined full-time back into the business and have been there ever since, trying to make it better and apply my skills into the business.
I'm Peter Gardner, Clifford Lumber Company, so fourth generation sawmill. So I always kind of knew I was going to do the sawmill, and my mother tried to talk me into being an engineer or something else, but I always liked the sawmill. I went to Paul Smith College, and then I went to UVM. Been at the sawmill full-time since 2000. Mostly retail-based. We saw about 1 million feet a year. Originally, I was obviously buying logs is very competitive. So we would buy a lot of 8 and 10 foot logs, things that other people didn't want, pine and hemlock, and we kind of just built on that, and our business has continued to grow. It's kind of a big shift now, it seems like, with the new administration, and in fact, so many sawmills are out of business. Kind of drove up through and went by where, I guess Green Curl is the last place on it, Bill New Lumber, and they're gone, and then there's Bell Gates, and then you're coming up through, there was Menage, which is a new place that tried to open, and had a lot of backing, and couldn't buy logs, went out of business. So, I don't know, there's going to be big changes in the forestry industry. I see it. I see in the next 20 years, there's not going to be the businesses around that there are today. The trend is going to continue. Very lucky in Chittenden County, and that's kind of where the money in Vermont is. We sell retail, pine, mostly shiplap, tongue and groove. We do wooden boxes, things to utilize our low-grade material and try to use everything that we saw. We kiln-dried firewood, it's kind of a sideline. Little by little we grow, and we go to all the auctions. There's kind of a positive side to all these places going out of business. There's a lot of cheap sawmill equipment out there. So we'll see. I don't know what to say. We're very lucky we have a sawmill. I couldn't even imagine someone new trying to go through the permitting process and trying to build a new sawmill. And the layers of regulations and stuff is a real challenge. We'd like to build a new building at our sawmill, but we're really scared any time to open up our permit and have to do interior landscaping between the log piles, and we just don't really ever know what's going to happen when we try to get a permit. Employees, when they're talking about that, is very difficult. But there's definitely a big advantage. People in Vermont want to buy local, and I don't know if people are really willing to pay that much more for it, but you definitely have the advantage that you're not transporting it long distances. And if you have a local product that's equal quality and same price range as the other stuff, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get the sale. So there's a lot of positives to it, and so I'd like to see there's young people that are trying to do this, and new loggers coming in. There's not a ton of them, but it's a big industry. We need the big people, the big producers to buy the wood. KJ was saying that today. You know, he sends most of his material over to Canada. And, that's kind of the way it is. And, you know, there's definitely things, hard maple and white pine and certain things. There's always going to be somewhat local markets for that stuff just because you can't ship it. There's too much spoiled into natural product. Really nervous. I don't know what's going to happen with the emerald ash borer. I haven't heard anyone say anything about that, but our invasive species and what our forest going to look like in another 20, 40 years with the loss of all these different species. Butternut trees are all kind of dying down. Emerald ash borer. What's going to be next? The longhorn Asian beetle that chew on the maples. No, so there's definitely a lot of challenges.
It's quite a list. Well, one of the things I really am curious about, is I think it's a perspective we don't hear a lot from, is why young people are motivated to get into the industry. And you know, we can think about why they might want to be, but I'm just sort of curious, like, especially you, Ben and Karina, who are sort of close to those, close to folks who are sort of working that way. So I guess I'd just start asking you, Ben, when you think about your students, what are they sort of excited about? Like, what are they energized about? What appeals to them about the board?
Sure. One other thing I didn't say when I did my little spiel, you guys all want me. So I teach juniors and seniors in high school, a full-day forestry tech program from 5 same high schools. Hazen, Stowe, Worth-the-Mola Union, and thank you. Thank you, John. So we're a full-day, fully immersed program. I didn't really say that before. So I'm seeing students that are highly motivated, go-getters, the kids that would normally be working on farms after school, would be hustling to make a dollar to make themselves a business. Kids starting businesses, while in high school. The only problem that I see is our student population is shrinking drastically. So I'm seeing a lot of motivated students that want to go into the industry, but there's just seeming to be less and less of them in the state.
Yeah, Karina, it's sort of the same question. What are the students that you're sort of excited about?
Yeah, I think the 90% of our students that come from out of state move to Vermont for a beautiful life. They come here, even if it's just temporarily, they have a vision for a life for themselves. When I get calls from tech school kids, they say, where am I going to be employed when I'm done and how much am I going to make? Your students actually aren't my students. They're different people. My students are people who call and they say, I need something real. I want to get back to basics. I really want to learn to do this work. I'm someone who works with my hands. You look like you're in a beautiful location for me to be able to invest in myself, and I want to come and do that. And a lot of them come here and they're excited to create that beautiful life. I think what Peter was talking about is a lot about being in business in Vermont. It's a lot about perseverance. It's a lot about finding your way around and through the challenges that we have, but we're here because we love it and we really want to succeed, and we know how to bring people together to do that. Our graduates are going out into the hills and they have a dream and they have a vision. And you know what else they have? Really good understanding of social media and marketing. And they are coming here and they know how to exist on the internet out in the sticks where you wouldn't know they're there, but they've got either their Etsy page or their portfolio on their website, and they're building clients and you wouldn't even know it's happening. And it's exciting to me because they're all connected to each other and they're all making progress and working in that way. One of the things that keeps me up at night is loss of net neutrality. If the algorithms change, these businesses are going to be in trouble. We need to be able to know that you can start a business from nothing in Vermont and have a product and get it in front of an audience no matter where you live or how much you make. You need to be able to know that the internet is open to you. So we really have to make sure we protect that for this next generation. And we don't need hundreds of new furniture makers in Vermont, but we do need the next generation. And I feel really excited about the fact that I can safely tell you there is a next generation that is populating the hills, and they're figuring out how to make it work and persevere with all of the challenges of starting a business in Vermont, and they know how to, and what I want them to know how is to access all the technical assistance and continue to come together beyond education. But they're excited about being part of something real and authentic, and that is Vermont's competitive advantage. You know, we also have a lot of maple, and that's good, but really what we have is our authenticity and our perseverance and our commitment to what's possible in the future.
Thanks. I think one thing that sort of struck me today when I was thinking about a lot of the businesses that are in the state, especially in the forest products arena, is that a lot of them are family businesses. And so I'm thinking down on your end over at Maple Landmark and Clifford, those are both family businesses. So I guess I'll just throw this out to any of the three of you. What was sort of appealing about taking over or getting into a family business, and maybe were there hesitations, or like how did you balance those sort of things? Yeah. Don't worry, your dad's not here.
Yeah, he's not sitting right there in front of the pillar. Yeah. So it was kind of interesting for me when I made the decision to come back, because a lot of my peers were seeking out really big corporate jobs. They're going to Boeing and GE, and they're like all excited about this. And they're like, "What are you doing after graduation?" And I'm like, "I'm going back to work at Maple Landmark in Vermont." And they're like, "What is that?" And you know, so it was kind of weird with that, but at the same time, this was an industry, and our products, it was something that I already knew very, very well, because as I said, I lived it for 23 years, so it's not something that I had to learn. And by the same token, I know the products, I also know the people, because 5 or 6 of them I live with. So, you know, to that degree, I also know, you know, how to work with them. You know, I have my desk. My aunt sits directly to the right of me. Just over from her is my mom. My brother is next to my mom. My dad's in the next office over. So, you know, it's a dynamic that, you know, we kind of get used to and get familiar with. So I was really looking forward to being able to jump right in, and because I already had that understanding of who was who and what we did, I could really get going right from the start. I didn't really need a training or orientation or anything like that. As far as concerns, I mean, you know, nothing more than, you know, my brother is right here. But we seem to have managed that all right. So I think we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like he said, one of the reasons I was looking to come back into the family business was you can have an impact and actually initiate something. And it's a family business. That doesn't mean you actually just can do whatever you want, though. You actually have to prove yourself, because other people have been working here longer than you have. You might have been around longer than them, but they know more than you about the business and how it works. And so, I mean, you have to work with people, but you can actually, like, initiate change. And a lot of the things I do involve initiating change. It's not going through 5 levels of management and then maybe something happens, but at the same time, I'm on the floor talking to people, and the small business, and then also being within a family, understanding the values of the business. Just, it gives meaning to what you're doing, and then it gives you a direction moving forward as well.
That's great. Oh, you have something?
So why did I want to stay in the family business?
Or what was appealing about it?
It's a sawmill. You know, I always just liked it. I would look at every little dirt bike, and I rode on the sawmill, log trucks, and you know, you definitely can see what you did at the end of the day. I mean, you got this pile of logs, and here's this pile of lumber, and this pile of sawdust, and Most people that come into the Sawmill just are amazed that they haven't seen one. And, it's a very, I think for me personally, it's just a very rewarding career, and you can build it up. And just little by little, built it up. It's all kind of retail based. We're running the Sawmill, trying to go like crazy. People come in and want two 812s to build their garden lot. So deal with them and keep them happy, and hopefully down the road they can build their house and they'll buy a bunch of lumber. It's just dealing with the people. And most of the people in the forest product industry are really nice, grounded people. Having to see them, someone they start talking, so I just really like it. It's outdoors. Obviously, there's challenges, and it's not all fun and games, but nothing really like that. I could imagine living in New York City or Denver. I really want to go.
Well, I heard from Adam, just like I was just sort of like listening in and hearing that there's some things that you bring, and I think young people bring a lot of things to businesses. There's experiences you have from your education and just different perspectives. So I just want to sort of shift the conversation and talk about those sort of things, like what you all, or what people sort of coming into the industry are bringing, and maybe from your own perspectives how you see it. So I guess I'd throw a question to Kyle. You just, you're coming in sort of fresh without sort of, a lot of folks who come into logging have, came in with family connections. But do you feel like there's, can you talk about any things that you feel like that you do differently, or there are new things that you don't see others maybe potentially doing that you're employing in your operation?
So being younger, I guess Facebook has been actually really huge for my business. I've done a Facebook page that I get a lot of work from. I guess technology, I would say I use a lot more of than a lot of my buddies that have been in the woods a lot longer than I have. I really, really focus on my QuickBooks and the charts and seeing, when I'm buying timber further away, how much more fuel am I using? When the skids are longer, how much more repairs am I making? So am I buying that timber at the right price? And I think that's really helped me to hone in on being a little more efficient.
I wonder, you, Ben and Karina, do you see, are there skills that or qualities in your students that you, pick out and these are definitely things that are going to mark people out well in the industry later on?
Yeah. I think that we recently have started to recruit students that I think are going to do better based on what they come to our school with. We are seeing a lot of interest from people with very strong sense of design coming to take the program at the school, and they know what is current and what is next. And they're actually defining what is next when it comes to the trends in furniture design. We had a recent graduate actually came from New York City, and she is just brilliant. Her work is it's just shining. And I think it's because I use Google AdWords search term, Bachelor of Fine Arts. And so people were looking for that. They started to find us, and it just changed the dynamic of the student. I know I'm talking about a lot of out-of-state students. We definitely have in-state students as well, but Vermont has a problem. We need to be importing young adults that are going to build the jobs in the industry, and not everyone is an entrepreneur. So I feel like part of my job is finding the entrepreneurial types that are going to come and settle here and create jobs so that we can continue to build the industry and be successful. But certainly that sense of design and their understanding of Instagram and their understanding of the importance of social media following, the understanding of running a business in a new way of thinking. It's not just write a business plan anymore. It's much more dynamic, and it's much more, it must evolve and innovate continuously and adapt when the market changes and find traction and respond to it. And I think our young people, for some reason, understand that already in a way that the next generation is going to help carry us forward.
In my students, I'm seeing a marked change in acceptance of technology. They're much more willing to grasp new ideas. They're, when I was going through forestry school, GIS was like this new big thing, and now these guys are on their phones and they have all this stuff, and they've totally surpassed me on what they're going to accept as technology. And so they have this leg up. They're not playing catch up like older folks like me on technology, and they really understand how to integrate everything. Looking at how to write business plans, to running QuickBooks, to looking at using mapping programs, and then putting it all together to put those skills to potentially be a very good business owner or a very good employee for a business down the road.
Yeah, I think, social media and technology was sort of mentioned a couple times here as things people bring, but on the sort of like the other side of that, I was, Charlie, I was looking for you online, and what came up for me was I didn't find any website or anything, but I found you're active in DLT and Cold Hollow to Canada, and you're active in, locally in Montgomery, and so it made me wonder, so what are the priorities that you're bringing to your work as a forester? Do you feel like that's, that maybe, I don't know if it's different than in the past, but what are you sort of bringing as your priorities to your work?
I guess, as far as the different stuff that I get involved with, whether it's work or working with the Land Trust or the Regional Conservation Partnership or the Select Board of Montgomery, there's a quote from John York that I'm going to butcher, but something to the effect of, if you pull on something in one place, you find it's attached to everything else in the universe. And the more and more time I spend in this industry, I find that is true throughout all of the work that we do in this state. Even, being on the Select Board of Montgomery, you get a lot of calls about why our road's not graded, but we also live in a town that's 80% forested. And so everything that we do from that perspective has an impact on the forest, and the forest has an impact on us. And so it's less a case of what the priority is that we're putting on it, but it's what the priority that's been put on us. We live in this place, we work in this place, and therefore have to take this wide lens in everything that we do to account for it.
We're kind of here at the tail end of this event where we're the Forest Industry Network Summit, and I'm kind of curious. I guess I would throw it out to everybody on the other end of there, just to know, or actually the whole panel, whoever wants to take this up. Who do you currently bounce your ideas off of? Like, what is the network that we have? I think it was Mike Snyder this morning talking about wanting to build sort of a culture around forestry, and I think part of that's general, but part of it's specific. Like, who are the people we're interacting with, and who is our network? So I guess I'm curious if folks can talk about who that is, who you bounce your ideas off.
When the working lands conversation began, I think that the forest products sector really had to insert itself and say, us too. This is not just about value-added agricultural products, food. This is also about the forest. And my network of people that I work with are business owners and generally women who run food products businesses. Business is business, and really understanding each other and learning from one another and recognizing that we're also part of this, working lands concept. It's more than just connecting with the forest products industry, but also these types of conferences and events are incredibly valuable. And it's not the first time that I've been able to participate in an event that was partially funded in some way by a grant that someone with some organization saw it was important that we get together. And it really is like a little bit of oxygen to kind of come into a room and reflect and think and learn from each other. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to connect with everyone again, and for all of the people in technical assistance that make these conversations happen.
So generally with stuff like that, the customer kind of want to do a new product or something, you don't want to spend a fortune on some kind of equipment or to do something different, but come up with an idea that kind of fits into your business, and you have a little lag time, the winter time, or something's not so busy. You try doing it and see if it works. If the customer wants it and they'll buy it and pay for it, really business kind of really bounce the idea off of it. You can sell it, make some money doing it.
Is that where the sort of value-added products at Clifford?
You go to an auction and you think you might buy this, and here's a 3-foot wide planer that's cheap, and you buy it and you start gluing up panels and trying to sell them and see if people will buy it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You don't go spend $35,000, $40,000 on something. And that's kind of always what I've done. Usually most things work out, sometimes too good. You get this new product, quote it. In the wintertime when we kind of want to do it, and then we come back in the middle of summer when we're really busy doing something else. Ian's been waiting for 2 weeks for a bar top from me. I promised a week ago. But yeah, definitely need to make a good product and at a reasonable price. Do it. Most of this stuff seems to work. Blogging, people can do things a little bit different. That's kind of what I've always done. It seems to usually work out.
Peter, maybe we can stick with you for a second longer. I think I really wanted to talk to everybody about sort of challenges and opportunities that you see coming in. And can you talk a little bit about maybe further opportunities that you guys see?
I think I know these things, but everything's really dynamic. 2007, the last couple of years, we were paying like $1.20 a gallon for off-road diesel fuel. 2007, if someone had told me that over the laptop, it's hard to really know exactly what's going to happen with stuff. I don't really know how to answer that.
Maybe Adam and Andrew, I don't know. I'm kind of curious because you're both sort of coming into the business there, and I'm kind of curious. Are there things that you'd like to see done differently not in the business itself, but in sort of the larger industry that Maple Landmark works in?
So I'll kind of combine that with the whole challenges question that we just had as well. So one of the things that I've really noticed in the last year or so is just a general lack of understanding and education of the public. So in our business, right, we're making toys and games and gifts and stuff like that, and it's being sold to, random person walking down the street. It's not necessarily somebody who's in this community and knows wood products and knows forestry and is familiar with all of these things. And so I'll give the example of in October of last year, we were exhibiting down at the Eastern States Exposition, the Big E, down in Springfield, Massachusetts. And one of the products that we had brought with us was our maple teethers, which apparently is one of the most foreign concepts that you've ever heard. And so people would come walking into our booth and they would just be like, "What is that?" And we're like, "It's a teether." Like, "You can have a wooden teether?" They're like, "What do you think they did before plastic was in there?" They're like, "Oh, that actually makes sense." So it's not necessarily, people being ignorant of what wood is and how it can be used. It's just never crossed their mind. So I think continued education, really, pushing the point of what wood is, what wood can be, and how it can be used is really important. People are very familiar with the usages in furniture and building houses and stuff like that, but it has so many applications and so many good properties, beyond our products, in furniture, in houses, in XYZ. The continued education is really, really important. Being a logger in Vermont, I've seen a lot of
opportunities and challenges. And one of the big opportunities is that your average logger is getting pretty old. Competition is not fierce. It really isn't. I've never met a logger that I wasn't friends with because we're never competing against each other. It's, oh great, you got that job over there. That's awesome. You know, and so there's no shortage of timber. There's some big challenges for sure, and the biggest that I found. One is being a hand-cut cable skid operation. Nobody's making equipment like that anymore. So coincidentally, I've had to become a very good mechanic. You see Cat and you see John Deere, and they're making these big, huge $500,000 machines that just do not fit the kind of work that we're doing. So and as that stuff gets older, it's getting harder and harder to find parts for it. And I really hope that at some point we're going to maybe tone things down, and they're going to start appealing to the small guys again. Workman's comp in Vermont is very difficult, especially being a hand cutter. It's astronomical, so that's made it really hard to grow business. Weather. Our winters have been shorter lately, no doubt about it. Our summers have been wet. But overall, I've definitely seen more opportunity and a challenge, or I guess I wouldn't have tried it in the first place.
You want to keep going with this theme?
Yeah, I think it's a great theme. And just like, and what are some challenges you see to forestry in Vermont that maybe you think aren't that don't get enough attention?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest challenge we see in the forestry sector, but on the industry as a whole, is the theme that we've heard a lot about today, which is change. You know, one of the big ones that we talk about a lot is changes in markets, right? Low-grade markets have changed. It's put a big impact on our industry. But we're seeing other changes. You know, we're kind of on the cusp of a major intergenerational shift in landowners. So we're going to see land changing hands at an unprecedented rate in the next 10 to 20 years. It's going to have a big impact. We're seeing demographic changes in our communities. Rural communities are shrinking. Might not seem like something that would necessarily impact us in this industry, but it does. You know, that's where our workforce lives. It's where they have to exist. We're seeing global changes, climate change. You know, we're seeing weather patterns changing. We're seeing invasive, exotic pests moving into our forests that we have to deal with. So I think as an industry, whether it's the forestry sector or on the whole, we have to kind of broaden the lens at which we look at our industry and figure out how we can shift this to adapt to these changes, these big theme of change that we're seeing. As far as opportunities go, I think the opportunities that I see to strengthen the industry are going to be based in the future on partnerships. And not just the partnerships that we're seeing today here between producers and suppliers and manufacturers, but the non-traditional ones. One of the best examples of this that I've seen in the past 5 or 10 years is the partnership between Audubon, Vermont, and our sector with the Foresters for the Birds program. I can't tell you how many landowners I've been able to hook into active management with that as a tool. People who never would have wanted to cut a stick of wood, when you walk out and talk about forest structure and habitat and why this is good for that little jewel that they see up there, it's a hook. It gets us in the door. It gets us working. You know, we live in an area where we have the largest diversity of breeding songbirds in North America. Baby birds are a forest product. Another partnership is right here in Burke. We've got the Kingdom Trails over here that are on a series of private lands that are active working lands. We've got lands being managed, we have recreation occurring on them, and we've got a tiki bar on a log landing. I mean, these are the partnerships that I think we need to embrace and really develop. I mean, recreation is a forest product, and so as we move forward, we need to recognize that we need to broaden the lens of what we look at as far as what are our markets and what are our products and what are the partnerships that we can engage in to take, to take advantage of that. And you know, there's big ones coming: carbon, ecosystem services, things we never thought about before, but it's the partnerships that are going to keep us going.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up this idea of change. It makes me want to sort of deflect the conversation as we get over to this end a little bit. So I guess for both you, Karina, and Ben, I'm kind of curious how, there's a lot of change going on. Industries change, they're constantly sort of shifting. And I'm kind of curious how your schools react to that sort of change, and if there's conversation going on with industry, and what you're able to do, or what you'd like to be able to do to connect with industry to be able to sort of position your students better.
All right. Luckily, I have a very good advisory board. I've got local foresters. I've got loggers, industry folks. I've got large-scale sugar makers on it. So my program is really tailored to what is needed in the forest industry. So I take feedback from anybody I talk to, not just who's on my advisory board, because we're really turning out the next generation of folks that are going to be in the woods. And as we all know, the workforce is aging, so we need an influx of younger folks. So I really, whoever I can talk to and glean anything from, I can tailor our program to whatever the needs are. Luckily, we have that flexibility where we could be heavy to sugaring, or we could be heavy to cutting, or forest management, and at that end of things. So luckily, we have that flexibility. So we're kind of a moving target as to what our goal is. It's really to whatever the industry needs at the time.
Do you get is there a lot of conversation back and forth specifically?
There's
open to it.
There is a fair amount. I wish I could have been here today. I would have enjoyed that. I wasn't able to be. This kind of thing is going to be what drives our industry forward and pushes the change and guides. We train our younger folks coming into it and stuff like this. I do have a fair amount of conversations year-round, summertime, wintertime, school year. We have a lot of industry folk coming into the program and run workshops. We host lead programs, so we're constantly getting feedback and kind of some direction from industry folks, which is very, very helpful, because that's what our program is trying to do, is turn out students or workers that are fit to what the industry needs.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, our schools, it's very different, what we're doing. Our program has evolved significantly since we founded a little over 10 years ago. It used to be about machines and the bench and the mentor, and that was what happened. But since then, in part due to a Working Landscapes grant, we were a first round recipient. We've been able to add a computer lab where we have SolidWorks training, so they know how to design on computer, and that helps make sure they have something else they can make a living at and be at the top of their trade. We have a photo studio. We have a computer marketing and business class that is run by a member of the Guild of Vermont Furniture Makers, who can really talk with these students about developing their plans so they can be successful. Dave Hurwitz teaches that class, and we can get him to keep perennially coming back, and it's really worth a tremendous amount. But the bottom line is we've adapted to make sure that our students who come in, we know that when they go out there and they're going to try to make a living and put that life together, that they need everything in their toolkit, no pun intended, to be successful. So that's how we've adapted we're not just a furniture making program, we're really a business program as well. And they develop a portfolio. They stay for the whole program. They develop a portfolio online and a brand, and they know how to put themselves out there. So that's kind of.
So on the tail end of the day here, we've all sort of been to a bunch of different sessions and listened to a lot of conversation. I'm just kind of curious to open up a little bit and just ask you folks if there were things that really struck you, or if there were things that you have any comment on, or from the day. I'll just sort of throw it out there open.
I'm happy to go first.
Yeah.
I feel reminded once again that, what is trade, what is our economy? It's really just us. I have something that you need, you have something that I need. Let's build a partnership, let's build a bridge and make things happen. We don't have to be at the mercy of the overall big market and all of the shifts that we hear about all the time, because we can trade with one another, and that local business to business and peer to peer, those opportunities are really what Vermont does so well. And I'm reminded of that today as we talk about all these big problems, but we bring it down to what's the conversation you had over coffee as you were walking down the hall. Those are the opportunities that make Vermont so resilient. when the rest of the country is headed in a deep dive, we're going down, but we've got each other and we're hanging in, and figuring it out. And the more we do that, the more recession-proof we are, the more resilient we are. And I'm reminded of how great that is in Vermont, and it's good to be part of that.
I guess one thing that stuck with me today through all the sessions that I was in and talking to people is the need for our industry to really tell our story better. And how do we do that? And I'll go back to this idea of partnerships and expanding the lens of what we look at as far as what's our marketplace and what are the products that are in it. I look at the mountain bike trails here, go back to that. Everyone that rides those trails is in a working forest, in a working landscape. And it's the people that enter into our industry from that avenue, whether it's that or birds or someplace else, that become advocates for it. And the more advocates we can have championing our work, the more support we can get for it, and they can be the ones that help tell our story. Because it's not us that are there all the time to be champions for it. It's people's neighbors, people's friends. So we need to recruit them, and they'll help us work toward our ends.
I kind of want to almost reiterate what was just said with the whole telling the story thing. That, to me, in what I do every day is really important, because to sell our product, we're trying to tell our story. But even beyond that, we're at pretty much the end of the value chain. We're the ones selling product to consumers to use in their everyday lives. But every place along the journey that piece of wood has, something is added to it, and there's more and more of a story. So even if you're at the very beginning and you're looking at logs in the forest, there's still a story to that. And so being able to tell that story and building on it, and it helps build that understanding of, this tree might be out here right now, and okay, so it got cut down. That's not a bad thing. There's something more to it. And so that just helps build public understanding. And so then, the grants and things like that can become easier because people know more about what's actually going on in the industry. The more you talk about it, the more people know about it.
I'd like to leave some time, maybe for people to ask any questions if there are any from the audience. So, are there any questions that are out here that people want to ask of the folks that are up here on stage?
I have a question.
Joe,
Just quick, I was thinking about the three at the end, about succession. And, I know with Peter, with you, and I don't know what the relationship is or how you're involved in the business, but I'm just thinking about you and the boys and Mike here about how if you're planning for working towards a time when the ownership might change, or how you're working on that.
Think he's retiring anytime soon? That's the best I got for you.
In our business, in 2007, I believe, we set it up as a partnership, and basically, I got 5% of the business every year till I'll stick half of the business, not the property, but the business. So you definitely, which is good for me, that I wasn't just working towards, something could happen and things would change. I have a young son, so hopefully he'll be in the Sawmill and everything will continue to go through to the next. Need to change these things. We tried at point on before with some kind of an accident or some sudden loss. It's important, I think, for family businesses to plan and want to try to do this, because I'm sure there's to do with transferring difficult kind of taxes.
Are there any other question there? Mike?
Well, I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a comment, which is really just simply to say thank you to you folks up there. As commissioner, I hear a lot about challenges. Frankly, I hear a lot of complaints. It's cool. Keep them coming. But it's really great. I'm going to go home this weekend and feel energized by the sense that there are bright young Vermonters who get it, care, and are committed and willing. It's really super. So thank you.
Woohoo!
Any more questions? All right, well, thank you very much. It's been great.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Okay, we're going to wrap this up real quick. I'd like to introduce or bring Christine McGowan up to the front. Christine's got a few parting words before we all head home. Christine, it's yours.
Thank you, Joe. And let's give another round of applause for these folks. This was really energizing. I love hearing from them. When we were planning this event, we purposely really wanted to end it on a note with the next generation of what this industry is going to look like. So I really thank them for that. I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you for making this summit such a success. It really, the committee has worked so hard to bring all these wonderful speakers, and let's just give it up for speakers, because honestly, we had a great round of speakers for this, so thank you to all of you. I want to thank the We Live Forestry Committee really for all their help in putting this together and coming up with the ideas for panels and speakers, etc. So really, it could not have happened without all of you. I want to thank the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund and Ellen Kaler for all of the help and support that all of our staff has really given to me in helping make this happen. I'd also, there are a lot of partners that really go into something like this, and launching this network, which I'm so excited about, because we've really been working toward this for 2 years and really more than that. So it's really exciting that it's now happening. But those partners really are what make it happen. So our industry partners, from Vermont Woodlands Association, Vermont Forest Products Association, the Vermont Woodworks Council, Renewable Energy Vermont, and all of the other trade organizations and groups that really have come together to make this possible and to really help bring their memberships into this fold. So I just want to give a big shout out to our trade organizations. And if you're not a member, you should be. So thank you to all of them. And of course, our agency partners, the Vermont Department of Forest Parks and Recreation. Thank you to Mike and Sam, and the staff over at the Forest Division has just been incredible to work with. Paul Frederick in particular has really been a wonderful resource, and he's a great person. And of course at ACCD as well. Our partners with the Northern Forest Center as well, they've been a really big partner and have helped us to think Vermont is part of a regional economy, and so it's been great to be able to work with them and have some of that regional perspective brought to the work that we do. And our funders, I want to say a big thank you to the Northern Border Regional Commission, the US EDA, the Working Lands Enterprise Initiative, the State of Vermont, the High Meadows Fund, and the Wyndham Foundation, all of which have really enabled this work to happen and will enable this work to continue into the future. So I just want to say a big thank you. And finally, to our exhibitors, I am really excited that we had 18 exhibitors this year, which we weren't sure how many would want to come, and we actually sold out. So I think that's a really good sign that there are a lot of people who want to be a resource to the industry, and so I hope you had a chance to go and visit with them. And if you did at least 10 of them, then you have been enrolled in our raffle that we are now going to go for. So I want Joe to come up because we're going to do this raffle. Let's see, we've got our box of names. So if you got at least 10 stamps from one of our exhibitors, then you've been enrolled. And we've got 3 raffles. So we're going to start with our first one. Let's see, where are our gifts here? We've got 3 great ones. We've got a gift certificate to Harvest Equipment. So they've got a few different locations. So $100 gift certificate. So if you've got an equipment need, you'll get a great start. So who do we have as our winner of the Harvest Equipment $100 gift certificate?
Monica Prusick.
Monica Prusick. All right. Woo. Thank you. And got to be present to win. So one of you in the room is now going to walk home with a $100 gift certificate to Spooner Specialties. And that's a store in Montpelier. If you're a woodworker or wannabe woodworker, they've got some great stuff there. So who is our winner?
Martin Driscoll.
Martin Driscoll. All right. Wonderful. Well, and now we have, and I don't know if Andrew Pierce is still here. He was on one of our panels earlier. But Andrew has donated one of his amazing bowls, an Andrew Pierce bowl. So our final prize is going to go to
Ed Larson.
Ed Larson. All right. You go home with a bowl and some oil and some instruction on keeping it beautiful for its lifetime. So I want to just thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. We hope we will do this again next year. This was the first annual. We hope to see you at the second annual Vermont Forest Industry Summit. If you haven't filled out a little survey, there's one in your bag. And if you don't feel like doing it, then it'll be sent to you via email. Joe? Yes, at the registration, you can get your certificates. If you didn't get